I'm Vicki Gervicus at the Greater Gainesville Chamber of Commerce. I'm the Director of Public Policy and Grassroots Engagement, and I'm delighted to welcome our Congresswoman Kat Cammack today. Her schedule is absolutely bonkers, so we're thrilled that she could make a little time for us so she can talk to us about what's going on and how her campaign is going so far. Welcome, Kat. Great to see you.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Vicki. It's good to see you as well.
All right. Well, we're glad to be able to at least have you here. I know you've been around town a little bit, which is nice, but we're going to jump right into questions because I know you've got a couple other things on your plate today. So let me get off. Okay, here we go. The first question I have for you, and it's a little different for you, but it's why are you running for re-election to this office?
Well, currently, as you know, I'm in my second term, representing Florida's 3rd congressional district, the fighting third, the Gator Nation. And we have done quite a bit of work up into this point, but there's still so much left to do. There's always going to be work, but I feel exceptionally passionate about the work that we're undertaking for our community back home and also for our state and for the country. I currently serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, where I am a member of the Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee, the IDC, which is Innovation, Data, and Commerce Subcommittee, which oversees everything from AI, tourism, sports, and of course, being Gainesville, that's really important for us. I think we need to update it because it might be a bit more impactful, but it used to be that if the Gator Nation was a nation in itself, we would be top 10 in the world for gold medals and Olympic medals. So sports is very, very important, as well as academia for our region. And so serving on that subcommittee is very important. But I also serve on the Technology and Communications Subcommittee, which is critically important for things like broadband deployment, which is absolutely vital for our region, whether it's an underserved community or our rural parts of the district, which make up pretty much the lion's share of the district. It's so important that we have that direct line. So in addition to energy and commerce, I serve on agriculture, where we are in the middle of an all-important farm bill, which is going to really dictate farm policy for the next 5 years for not just Florida, but for the entire country, as well as our markets overseas. And so being the only Republican on the Ag Committee representing the entire state, that's critical. I'm really proud that I get to serve with Darren Soto, who is the Democrat. And this is very unique in that we in the years past have always had about 3 or 4 representatives on the Ag Committee. Now we're down to just 1 Republican and 1 Democrat. So there's a lot that is happening in the ag space that impacts not just our rural communities, but also telehealth, education, commerce, you name it. And so it's really, really important. And in addition to that, I serve on the AI task force. I was appointed by the Speaker of the House as one of the 12 Republicans. It is equally bipartisan, 12 Republicans, 12 Democrats. And this is critically important because AI is going to play a huge role in every single aspect of our future, of our industry, you name it. AI is absolutely a part of it, and representing the University of Florida, which is the AI university with the HyperGator, with all of the work that is being invested into AI and under the leadership of President Ben Sasse, we see this massive collective of ways that academia can marry up with industry and put forward really great solutions utilizing incredible technology and AI. So that is another area that we are involved in. And finally, weaponization is one of the things that we are focused on, serving on the Weaponization Committee, where we focus on protecting constitutional rights of everyday Americans. And so we have a lot on our plate. That's just the official committees that we work on, in addition to our leadership in the caucus world, where I am the leader of the Women's Caucus, which is critically important because we focus on healthcare issues related to women, whether it is maternal health, whether it is dealing with issues related to military sexual trauma experienced by women in the military, whether it is dealing with caregivers and there's a bill that we actually are championing that really is putting caregivers in the driver's seat for so many of the resources that have been passed on and passed over. So there's so many things that we're doing, and I couldn't be more proud of the team that we have that's serving Florida's 3rd congressional district. Truly, I couldn't do it without them. And so it's exciting to see this work continue because there is so much that needs to be done. And at the end of the day, we feel very confident that people with a servant's heart are the ones that get the most done. And that's what we're aiming to do.
Great. All right. Well, now you've touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to give you the chance if you want to amplify something or have something different, but it's a good segue, which is what national issue is most pressing to you and what is the impact to our community?
So I would say there's probably, it's hard to differentiate between the two. One I would certainly say is the economy. Inflation is very, very real. And being a state like Florida, where we have so many people on fixed incomes, that is truly a challenge because when you're on a fixed income, you can't sustain the increased prices that you're seeing at the gas station or at the grocery store or, for your basic everyday services. Everything is going up. And so for us, getting this economy back on track is critically important. And that starts with cutting government spending. The more that the federal government spends, that's more money coming out of your pocket. And so our goal is to reduce the size and scope of government so that people keep more of that money in their pockets. And we want to see money being spent in our local community, stimulating the local economy. Government doesn't create jobs. Industry does. And so what we can do in that realm is facilitate job growth. We've worked to try to bring different companies into the district to set up their secondary location or their headquarters, expanding good jobs so that people have really a diversified local economy where people don't have to move away to get a good paying job that can support their family. That's something that is critically important. And so we have a unique, and I apologize for the bells in the back.
No, that's okay. We've got a major thunderstorm going on here. So it's, it's always something.
Which is such a nice reprieve from the 100 and some odd degree weather that we've been having in Florida. Oh, it is hot.
Yeah.
But the economy, I would say, is the number one issue that we're having to contend with. And that is not an R versus D issue. That is an American issue. And when we have a strong economy, that bolsters so many other industry sectors, so many other aspects of our nation, like border security, right? So that is another major issue, is that we have an open border. And people say, well, why does that impact me in Gainesville, Florida? Let me tell you why. We not only have seen individuals with bad intentions come to our community, we have seen where drugs have become a very, very negative part of our local community. Fentanyl is exceptionally detrimental and devastating. I've spoken with parents in the Gainesville community who have lost their children to fentanyl. That fentanyl is coming from Mexico. It is coming from the border. And so we have a real challenge in making sure that we're stopping the bad actors coming into our community, and we're stopping the drugs that are coming into our community. Just south of us in Marion County, bricks of fentanyl were found in a drug bust with pill presses. And when they were interrogating these individuals, they were here illegally and they had intentions to distribute in the Gainesville area. We have too many families that have been impacted, and you talk to anyone who is in either law enforcement or in healthcare, they'll tell you this is a real issue. We have to actually start paying attention to the border issue as a local issue. So those two issues, I would say, would be the number one federal issue that we're contending with.
That we're concerned with. Okay, terrific. Next question is, inequity continues to plague our region and the nation. What factors are the most significant contributors, and how do you think Congress can best address them?
I go back to what I was saying earlier, that the best thing government can do is get out of the way. Government mandates are very good ways to drive out opportunity and innovation. And when you have a competitive free market, that is what is going to drive more opportunity, more competition, and that is going to open up more doors for more people. I think that there's certainly ways that we can facilitate in government. Like I said, one of the things that we're focused on is delivering broadband. And it's not just to rural areas, it's to our underserved communities. I have conversations every single day from my perch on both energy and commerce, as well as in agriculture, because we have 132 different programs designed to deliver broadband. They haven't met their goal of delivering broadband, and you have to ask why. Well, it's because the government bureaucrats have gotten in the way and they're not boots on the ground. When I talk to them, I say, I have people on the east side of Gainesville that haven't had the infrastructure investments necessary in order to really deliver the opportunities, the job growth, right? And that really requires a federal, state, and local effort, all cooperating together. But what we need is that conversation to start from. We can facilitate it, but it's ultimately going to be industry that comes in and invests. We're seeing the beginnings of that through some of the work that's being done with that cooperation of the three, the federal, the state, and the local. But it's really got to be a free market driven process. A government mandate is only as good as that government, those people in government are in. And so you really want something that's going to have a long lasting impact. I think infrastructure is a very big part of this. And it's not just broadband, it's also our wastewater, our potable water, our roads, looking at ways that we can develop infrastructure and best use taxpayer dollars. I think the local level is the best place for this to happen because we've seen where in the past, federal earmarks have been abused, which is why I personally don't use them and I don't submit them, because I feel that they contribute to the corruption in that environment in Washington. I think the federal government can best facilitate this type of growth to address some of those gaps rather than trying to put a mandate down, which ultimately ends in disaster and has been proven time and time to do as much.
Okay, terrific. Speaking of gridlock, so the next question is, divisiveness and gridlock have only increased in our nation. What measures do you think we need to take to move forward?
Oh, Ms. McKee, I could talk to you a long time about
this
this.
would be longer than 30 minutes, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
you know.
No, ultimately, what I have seen, and this is both sides of the aisle, I affectionately call this entertainment. The new culture, especially in Washington, but online and social media, I call it entertainment. Everything, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, it doesn't matter. It is all geared to keep you outraged, frustrated. And that is only because there is a profit being generated on the back end. The old adage in journalism was, if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead. Now we see that in social media, where social media influencers will put out salacious content and say, if true, breaking, if true, big, and so there's a lot of frustration that I think people are now starting to catch on to of, this actually isn't a real story, or this isn't, as bad as you made it seem. And that's actually not what is going on. The salacious headlines, which I again call entertainment, and that behavior of where politicians, legislators, they feed into that. They give a fire-breathing speech and then they turn around and try to raise money off of it. That is very, very detrimental to our nation and to our culture, to our society. Both sides are equally as guilty. I don't pinpoint that on any party. That is a huge part. We have to overcome the entertainment. Talking about gridlock, that kind of behavior only furthers the gridlock, particularly in Washington. How you overcome it is you really tap into the people. I think that we, the people, have a unique opportunity to overcome so many of our nation's challenges and really fix things because of the vested power that we have as American citizens. The founding fathers, they really envisioned a representative government, a constitutional republic where your legislators were directly represented by the people, right? And so I think people have kind of gotten busy with life, and that happens to everybody. You have families and jobs and businesses and everything is happening. And it's not the most convenient thing to pick up the phone and call your congressman or a congresswoman or your senator and say, this is how I'm feeling. But I think eternal vigilance is what is needed in order to right the ship. Because I've seen firsthand up here the power that the people have when they're engaged. And so I think we can overcome the angertainment and then subsequently the gridlock by really engaging people, making it so that they're motivated, educated, and engaged. I will also add that, I'm really proud of the fact that a lot of the work that we do, the bills we introduce, are bipartisan. And, I know I've heard from people that they don't want me to work with Democrats. That's not who I am. I'm someone who I will get along with someone who shares my goal. And in all of our legislation, whether it has been the work that we've done with caregivers and streamlining resources for caregivers, or reining in the ridiculous bureaucracy of the federal government, the REINS Act, which is the most popular bill in Congress, I should also add, that was passed out of the House bipartisanly. There's so much work that we do, and we do it bipartisanly because we want it to get across the finish line. Too many bills up here are messaging bills that are just meant to say, this is what I'm doing, or to give the impression that you're doing something. We're not interested in that. So I think that that's one way we can overcome it, is focusing on bills that we know we can advance to the finish line, being really thoughtful in how we approach them, putting the party politics aside and saying, this is what's best for America, putting America first.
Very good. All right. Well, the last question I have for you is one of these little wrap-up questions, but it's, why should the business community support your campaign?
Oh, well, it kind of goes without saying, and that, as someone who's been in the community for over a decade now, having really worked as closely as we have with the chamber and the business community, facilitating job growth and new job creation, retaining jobs, working to help develop the infrastructure necessary to attract new companies or keep them. That's always been our primary focus. We've been awarded multiple times from different associations, whether chambers or different associations in industry, whether it's the home builders or associated builders and contractors, you name it. We've been a champion for these issues. And a lot of it comes back to the work we do in tackling the regulatory regime. We think that the best government is local government, that the best government is small government. And that's really what we're trying to do, because you don't want a bureaucrat in Washington and that is unelected, nameless and faceless, making decisions that are going to impact your industry and your business. And when you're in a community like Gainesville, we have a thriving community, but we also are looking to try to diversify our local economy. And that means that we don't want to be having a regulatory environment that's pushing industries out of business. We want people to grow their businesses and create jobs. And so I think for the work that we've done in that space, along with helping facilitate new companies coming into the industry or into the area, that's one more reason why I think we are the best choice heading into November.
Very good. Okay, well, now I'm going to turn the floor back to you. If there's anything we didn't get to cover that you wanted to, or if you want to just bring us on home, the floor is yours.
Well, I know everyone's time is precious, and I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to, talk about some of the work that we've been doing up here in Washington, certainly. But, I will say it is not an easy job up here, not necessarily a fun job up in Washington if you're doing it right. Because it is a lot of hard work that never makes the headlines. And I'm just really proud of the team and the work that they have done, certainly up in Washington, but also in Florida. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that over $22 million has been recovered by our team in Florida and gone directly into the pockets of small businesses, seniors, veterans, and working class families. And this is money that the government has owed our folks, our neighbors and friends, but was holding on to. And it shouldn't take an act of Congress to get your veterans benefits. It shouldn't take an act of Congress to get the IRS to process your taxes. It shouldn't take an act of Congress to do these things. But we're finding that the bureaucracy has grown so big that it can't get out of its own way. And so our job in Florida is to really facilitate and be that liaison between these federal agencies and our constituents. And so we're really proud of the over $22 million in direct funds that have come back to people. Like I said, our seniors, our veterans, working class families, and our small businesses. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the over $2 billion with a B dollars that we have really worked hand in glove with the university, with small businesses, with associations, with nonprofits to help them secure this funding. Again, I don't do earmarks, but I don't need earmarks in order to secure these types of wins for our different areas and these different associations and organizations. We believe in a merit-based competitive system. And so what we have done is worked with these different, like I said, nonprofits or associations, companies, schools, you name it, we've worked with them, and they've put together very competitive grant packages of which we then support and go and work to try to get across the finish line. So I think for the amount of investment that we've been able to bring to the area, for the amount of work that we've been able to do on behalf of our constituents, I'm super proud, and I am every day thankful for the team that we have, because at the end of the day, we work for you guys. And so it's an honor and a privilege of a lifetime, truly, to be your voice and representative in our nation's capital. It's definitely a job that will test your patience. But I love our community, and I love the people that we get to go to work for every day. So it's all worth it in the end.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kat teed that up for me perfectly, because at the Greater Gainesville Chamber, we are very committed to making sure that we do what we can do to make everybody's voice heard. And of course, one of our best privileges and rights is to make our voice heard through our vote. So
Yeah.
we encourage everyone to get out and vote on, it's going to be here in the blink of an eye. Tuesday, August 20th is our primary. And be ready and make sure you take your opportunity. Thanks again so much, Congresswoman. We'll see you around town, and great luck in the rest of the summer and as you continue on with your campaign and your day job.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And of course, go Gators.
Go Gators.